7,500 weapons. That is what the Israeli Defense Forces say they found in southern Lebanon in a single operation, 7,500 weapons that were supposed to have been cleared under a ceasefire agreement. 1,000 ammunition crates. 750 small arms. 90 launchers and missile launchers. 60 explosive belts. Those are not the numbers of a disarmed militia. And while the IDF is posting those numbers today, Israel's own prime minister is simultaneously writing about a Golani fighter killed in Lebanon yesterday, and giving a personal statement about a flotilla of Gaza-bound ships that his navy turned back. Israel is not fighting one war. According to the data in front of us, it is fighting at minimum 3 simultaneous campaigns: Lebanon, Gaza, and a naval interdiction operation, all at the same time. And according to an Al Monitor analyst, it has no exit strategy for any of them. That is where we begin. This is what we are covering. First, the 7,500 weapon discovery in southern Lebanon, what it means for the ceasefire, for Hezbollah's strength, and for whether this war is anywhere near over. Second, the 24-hour recap from the IDF, 40-plus Hezbollah infrastructure sites struck in a single day, command centers, military structures, terrorist infrastructure. Third, Netanyahu's flotilla statement and the line he wrote that is going to live on the internet forever. Fourth, the 2 targeted eliminations the IDF announced this week, including a Hamas intelligence chief and a man using paramedic cover. Fifth, Al Monitor's analysis: Israel is sinking deeper into its Lebanon quagmire with a reinforced Hezbollah and no exit strategy. If you want to understand the full picture of what Israel is actually doing right now, subscribe and stay with us. Let's go through the last 72 hours in chronological order, using the official posts themselves. On April 29, the IDF announced the elimination of what it described as Ziad Ahmed Abd al-Rahman Shambari, identified as the head of the operations department in Hamas's military intelligence headquarters. According to the IDF post, Shambari was a key figure gathering intelligence on IDF troops to direct and execute attack plans. Also on April 29, Prime Minister Netanyahu posted a video simply captioned "Lebanon continuing," suggesting ongoing operations in that theater but providing no additional public detail. On April 30, 2 significant posts. First, the IDF announced the elimination of Ibrahim Abu Zakr, described as a terrorist operating under the cover of a paramedic who had planned an imminent terror attack against IDF troops. The IDF statement noted that by using paramedic cover, he endangered both soldiers and civilians. Second, at 4:06 p.m. on April 30, Netanyahu posted a personal statement, and the language is worth quoting directly. He wrote, "Well done to our Navy. I instructed them to prevent a Hamas-supporting flotilla from reaching the shores of Gaza. The mission was executed with complete success. No ship and no Hamas supporter reached our territory, and not even our territorial waters. They were turned back and will return to their countries of origin." And then this: they will continue to see Gaza on YouTube. That final line, 3 weeks into what Al Jazeera English's reporting calls more than 2 years of war, was written by a sitting head of government and has generated significant international reaction. On May 1, 2 more IDF disclosures. At 9:18 a.m., the IDF published a 24-hour recap for southern Lebanon, 40-plus Hezbollah infrastructure sites dismantled including command centers, military structures, and additional terrorist infrastructure. Then, at 11:10 a.m., came the largest single disclosure: 7,500-plus weapons uncovered in southern Lebanon alongside military equipment. The IDF's itemized list: over 1,000 ammunition crates, 750-plus small arms, 450-plus magazines, 300-plus pieces of military equipment, 200-plus grenades, 140-plus mortar shells, approximately 90 launchers and missile launchers, approximately 60 explosive belts, and approximately 20 anti-tank and anti-aircraft missiles is not a description of weapons left behind by a retreating force. It is a description of a prepositioned armed arsenal. There are 3 analytical threads here that deserve careful examination. First, the 7,500 weapon discovery and what it tells us about the state of Lebanon. Israel and Hezbollah reached a ceasefire agreement in late 2024, brokered partly by the United States, which included provisions for Hezbollah to withdraw north of the Litani River and for heavy weapons to be cleared from southern Lebanon. The IDF's discovery of 7,500-plus weapons, including anti-tank and anti-aircraft missiles, explosive belts, and 90 launchers, suggests that either the ceasefire disarmament provisions were never fully complied with, or Hezbollah has been rearming in place since the agreement was signed. Al-Monitor's analysis, published today, puts it starkly: without an exit strategy, Israel faces an emboldened Hezbollah with limited options on Iran. That phrasing, emboldened Hezbollah, is doing significant analytical work. It implies that whatever Israel has done in Lebanon over the past 63 days, it has not degraded Hezbollah's capacity to the degree the operation was intended to achieve. Second, the paramedic targeted elimination. The IDF statement that Ibrahim Abu Zakr was operating under paramedic cover and that this endangered both soldiers and civilians places this strike at the intersection of a deeply contested legal and ethical space. The laws of armed conflict prohibit deliberate targeting of medical personnel, but also prohibit combatants from using protected status as cover. The IDF's justification that the cover itself constituted the endangerment will be contested by human rights organizations. Third, Netanyahu's YouTube line. It is easy to read that phrase as rhetorical bravado. It is also worth taking seriously as a statement of policy. The Prime Minister of Israel has publicly announced that civilians trying to reach Gaza by sea will be turned away and will see Gaza only through a screen. That is a deliberate public articulation of a blockade posture affecting civilian access. Its legal and humanitarian implications are significant. Does the 7,500 weapon discovery mean the Lebanon ceasefire has effectively collapsed? This is unclear. The discovery of cached weapons does not automatically void a ceasefire agreement, but it strongly suggests that Hezbollah either did not comply with disarmament provisions or has been actively rearming. Some analysts suggest the ceasefire was always more of a tactical pause than a structural settlement. Whether Israel treats this discovery as grounds to formally declare the ceasefire void has not yet been announced. Is there any viable end state for Israel's Lebanon operation? Al-Monitor's reporting explicitly flags the absence of an exit strategy as a core vulnerability. Some analysts suggest the end state Israel is seeking, a Lebanon free of Hezbollah weapons south of the Litani, may be structurally unachievable without either a permanent occupation of southern Lebanon or a political transformation of the Lebanese state that disarms Hezbollah by consent. Neither of those outcomes appears imminent. The military operation may be tactically successful on a daily basis while being strategically inconclusive over time. The human geography of this multi-front conflict matters enormously. Let's move through the affected populations. In Gaza, we are, according to Al Jazeera English's May Day reporting, more than 2 years into a conflict that has produced what AJE describes as an economic collapse. On International Workers' Day, AJE spoke to Palestinian workers in Gaza amid what it characterized as soaring unemployment and ongoing devastation. Exact unemployment and casualty figures have not been independently confirmed in this dataset, but the framing, an economy in collapse, workers in perilous conditions, represents a humanitarian situation that has been running in parallel with the military operations we have been discussing. In Lebanon, the civilian cost of the ongoing operations is captured partially by the Middle East Day 63 update, which logged 32 deaths in Lebanon from strikes on a single Thursday. The cumulative toll after 63 days, exact figures have not been confirmed in this dataset, is a significant number that sits behind every IDF operational update. In Israel, Netanyahu's Morning Post morning Sergeant Liam Ben Hamo, a Golani fighter killed in southern Lebanon, is a reminder that the human cost of this war extends to Israeli families as well. The Golani Brigade has historically been one of Israel's most elite and most deployed infantry units. Its continued combat operations in Lebanon are a significant commitment of national military capital. In the broader region, Al-Monitor's Iraq reporting is relevant here too. Iraq's new PM designate is navigating the formation of a government while Israeli operations against Iranian-backed forces in Lebanon are ongoing, and while a U.S. naval blockade of Iran to the east is simultaneously running. The regional interconnection of these conflicts, Iran, Lebanon, Gaza, and the Strait of Hormuz, means that what happens in one theater directly affects the calculus in all the others. Now, a significant portion of the global public and a significant number of governments view Israel's operations in Lebanon and Gaza through a fundamentally different lens, and those perspectives deserve to be presented with full seriousness. On the Lebanon weapons cache, critics would argue that the IDF's framing of 7,500 weapons as proof of Hezbollah's threat must be weighed against the question of why those weapons are there in the first place. Hezbollah arose as a resistance movement in response to prior Israeli military operations in Lebanon. Its weapons represent, in the view of its supporters, a deterrent against a state that has repeatedly invaded Lebanese territory. The weapons cache discovery could be read not as evidence of Hezbollah's aggressive intent, but as evidence that Lebanon requires armed defense capacity. On the Gaza flotilla, multiple governments and international organizations have challenged the legality of Israel's blockade of Gaza as a form of collective punishment that violates international humanitarian law. The flotilla that Netanyahu's navy turned back was, according to the description, a civilian vessel carrying international nationals who intended to bring aid or make a political statement. Netanyahu's "See Gaza on YouTube" remark, however rhetorically effective domestically, was widely condemned internationally as callous in the context of what the UN and multiple human rights bodies have described as a humanitarian catastrophe. On the targeted eliminations, the IDF's designation of a paramedic as a combatant will be contested. The Geneva Conventions provide strong protections for medical personnel, and critics argue that framing these strikes within a legal justification does not exempt them from scrutiny. Al Jazeera English's broader characterization of the Gaza conflict is reflected in its reporting, a genocidal war that has caused an economic collapse. That framing is disputed by Israel and its supporters, but it represents the lens through which a significant portion of the world is watching this conflict. Hundreds of millions of people watching these events through screens, forming opinions that will shape elections, alliances, and international law for decades. Everyone is watching Gaza. And the war that everyone is watching shows no signs of ending. What do you think the endgame looks like for Israel in Lebanon? And do you think there is a diplomatic solution to Gaza, or has this conflict gone past the point where one is possible? Drop your honest analysis in the comments. We want to hear from people on all sides of this.